Hey everybody, welcome to Film Juice. I'm Mike. Today I wanted to briefly talk about a movie that has been in the back of my head since I watched it last weekend. A movie called The Sadness, a Taiwanese horror movie that I guess came out under the radar last year. Now Shudder picked it up. So I was alerted to this one by a coworker who hadn't seen it yet, but had mentioned that the trailer looked intense, and I said, okay, well, I'm just going to go in blind and watch it, and thank God I did that, because I wouldn't have watched it. It's marketed as kind of a zombie pandemic movie, and we've all seen at least 3 of those in our lifetimes. It's too many, at least 3. We've seen more, definitely, but it's still a lot of the same idea, just in a different, wrapped in a different whatever. But anyway, yeah, it kind of appears as though it's a typical, edgy, gory zombie flick. This movie is actually about, it's more than that. It's a lot scarier than just a straight up zombie movie. This is about it's about a young couple who are separated in the city while this pandemic is exploding. And they're trying to reach each other so that they can be together and try to get away together. At least I think that's the idea. They're trying to reach each other is the point. But the catastrophe surrounding them is so unnerving and ultra-violent and ultra-depraved that during the movie, I was watching this, and it goes beyond just people eating each other. It goes straight up to sexual assault. And it's really scary, and it's just the look on these people's faces. And I don't know how many other people have ever actually sat down and read the Scorched comics. I have, and those are some fucked up comics, thanks to Garth Ennis. Those are some of the most horrible comic books you'll ever see, and this movie captures that perfectly. And I kept thinking about it. I'm like, okay, these people have this like depraved grin on their faces and their eyes turn black. I was like, this looks a lot like Scorched. And sure enough, I don't know what the source is on this, but Wikipedia says that the movie was inspired by the comic book series. So there's no credits given to Garth Ennis or to that comic book publisher. So I'm wondering if that's even true. But it is very similar to that if you've ever read Scorch and you haven't seen this yet. These background characters turn on a dime, and they become these... They'll just grab the nearest thing and start beating somebody to death with it. I think there's an instance where a guy pulls out a knife and just starts stabbing somebody. There's an enormous amount of blood in this movie. Prepare yourself, because it does get somewhat cartoonish. Like, I would say... There's a scene that's straight up the Crazy 88 scene from Kill Bill. The blood is just relentless, and you kind of want to laugh sometimes at how violent this movie actually is, because it's not only the violence that you see, but the violence that's implied. But I will say that very rarely during the movie do they cut away from something horrible that's happening. Sometimes you kind of wish they would cut away. Like when somebody's being beaten in the face with a fire extinguisher to where there's just nothing left. You kind of hope they will cut away. But there are scenes where things are just out of frame, that they're left to your imagination. There's a scene with a bone saw. One of the infected takes a bone saw to somebody somewhere below his waist. You don't see what's going on. You just see this blood splashing everywhere, and these other infected are holding him down while she's going at him. And, of course, it's implied that he dies. It does cut away there. And I'm deliberately not describing the characters, because it almost doesn't matter except for the main 2 characters. So, you can go in knowing what the deaths are, but until you actually see them happen, one, you're not going to be entirely satisfied by just me sitting here describing them to you. And also, you're just missing out on the experience of feeling somewhat disgusting watching this movie. Of course, there are way worse movies with way worse content out there, but this one is just right there where it's like, Jesus, the things that thought of these infected people to be doing, and how they spread the virus or whatever it is. They never explain what it is. Yeah, the movie's about the conflict immediately surrounding this couple. I wouldn't even call it a conflict, but the catastrophe, the outbreak. And of course, since this came out in 2021, I think it's safe to say this is an allegory for the pandemic and how it made everybody a little crazy. It brought out the worst in people. I wouldn't say in every case, but in a lot of cases, it brought out some behavior that is certainly, anyway. It's not the same as eating somebody's face off, okay? But I'm just saying, this movie is too close to the pandemic situation that I would say it's a direct commentary on that. But it's also a good story on its own. It's a non-story. It's a series of events. That's the weakness there, is the story is paper thin. Really, you're just watching it for the deaths. And the story is barely keeping it together. You could just watch a series of these deaths, and it probably had the same effect. You are touched at the end, at least a little bit. But you don't go into these movies expecting there to be an emotional core or something you can latch onto with your heart. You go in there expecting there to be visceral carnage. You don't necessarily need there to be an emotional core to it. But the way the movie starts and the way it ends, it's very indie. It's very low key. It felt like, what's that? Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson movie. It felt like that, but where there's infected people raping each other's eye sockets. Yes, that happens. I would recommend this movie. I can't do like a fully fleshed out 30-minute review of this movie. It's sweet and compact. I think it's about 2 hours, which honestly these days is compact for a movie that's like this, or any movie. It's easy to digest, but it's hard to swallow. Let's say that, because you're gonna have to sit there. If you're a gore fan, you're gonna love it. If you're a gore fan, you're gonna love it. If you get grossed out by gore, or if you don't like blood, just do not even try. Well, you know what? Yeah, try and record your reaction and post it to your YouTube. But that's me. I don't condemn this movie. I think it's great. I think it's creative in its depravity. I think it's great without being totally undersaturated in its look and just the tone of the picture. It's not like crazy desaturated to look more realistic. And there's the action in there is like normal people trying to fight off these unhinged infected individuals. So it's not there's no fancy action or anything. You're really just in it for the gore. So yeah, if you're not into gore, don't watch this. It's barely a horror movie. It's scary on a different level than these movies usually are. So yeah, give it a watch if you have Shudder, or find some way to watch it. Borrow somebody's Shudder account. I'm going to have to let somebody borrow mine to get somebody else to watch this so we can talk about it. Maybe I should have waited until then. No, it's fine. All right, guys. Go see The Sadness. It's on Shudder. So yeah, everybody watch that movie, have fun, and have a safe time. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.